just watching Dhoni walk out to bat the other night. The crowd is so expectant on for him, and the demeanour that he carries is quite incredible for that sort of
situation.
Those situations and the external pressures. So it's fascinating to watch it.
Yeah, I think. Thank you so much for doing this with us. We're very excited. It's IPL season, so my first question is about that. How does it feel to be back in India?
Yeah, it's great to be back. Obviously love the IPL. I think it's my 7th, 8th year maybe coming here. So I've always loved watching it from afar, and obviously now being part of it, getting the chance to play in the biggest T20 tournament in the world is fantastic.
Yeah. Any particular state you love in India the most? Where do you love playing?
Obviously Jaipur, and so it'll be great once we get back there with Rajasthan, but obviously I have a soft spot for Mumbai as well. My first IPL experience was with the Mumbai Indians for 2 seasons, and I think the Wankhede is probably my favourite stadium in India.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. We won our 2011 World Cup there, so I think it's for a lot of people. It's
absolutely.
A similar feeling. I want to ask you a few questions about before you became a cricketer. What was your childhood like? Were you're known to be very soft-spoken? Were you like that even when you were very young?
Yeah, I think so. I have one of 3 children. I have an older brother, older sister. So yeah, the youngest of 3. Grew up in Somerset, which is in the southwest in England, sort of countryside. So quite sort of rural upbringing. But yeah, surrounded by lots of sport. Anything that involved a ball, I was interested in playing. Be it sort of tennis, football, rugby, and obviously cricket as well. So I think a lot of my early life is sort of those kind of memories, playing in the garden or on the patio, creating games against my brother and stuff, and just being really sort of into sort of sport, and I think I have a really lucky upbringing as well. So my parents were great at giving me lots of opportunities. They would sort of taxi me around to cricket matches or whatever it was, and just let me sort of have a go at everything, which was fantastic. And there's obviously, now at the age I am now, you sort of look back and understand what a huge part of your development that is.
Yeah, you appreciate it a lot more.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you always think you would become something to do with sport, whichever sport it is?
Probably, yeah, from quite an early age. I'd say, going to watch, so Somerset would be my local county cricket team. We'd go down and watch them play quite often, and just, sort of, so from quite early understood that could be a career. Getting to play cricket for your career sounded like a good gig to me. So, and once I got onto Somerset's academy, which was when I was about 13, 14, that's the time I sort of could see a clear path to becoming a professional cricketer. And never really wavered from that too much.
Anything else you wanted to become?
Not really. There's always sport. Football is obviously huge in England. I think all of us are sort of failed footballers in some sense if they're not playing professional football. Agriculture, I was sort of a little bit interested in. Obviously, growing up in Somerset, there's a big farming community. Some good friends who are farmers sort of just down the road, so I sort of always sort of joined in a little bit down there on the farm with them, and lots of sort of my peers at school were involved in agriculture in some way. So that was a little bit of an interest in that kind of thing, but no, it was always really sport for me.
Yeah. And while you got interested in cricket, who were the players that you were looking up to and being like, okay, maybe I can be like him someday?
Yeah, I'd say, so Jonty Rhodes was a very early inspiration for me. I didn't used to always keep wicket. I used to love fielding, and the '99 World Cup was in England, and sort of some really clear memories of going to watch some of those games. And Jonty Rhodes would be one guy. Adam Gilchrist was another wicketkeeper batsman who was sort of, changed the mould of the wicketkeeper batsman, which was someone I was really excited to watch. And yeah, so those two are the main ones, and Steve Waugh a little bit actually. Obviously, Australia was so dominant at that time, and when he was captain. So, yeah, I'd say those three guys.
And at what point did you, once you were in your under 13 and 15 and 17, what point were you like, okay, now I'm going to really try for this. I really want to play for England someday. How did that process happen?
Yeah, as going back to like sort of getting selected for Somerset's academy at sort of 13, 14, that was sort of when it all became a bit more serious for me. So my parents changed where I went to school as well. They sent me to a private school which was renowned for its cricket in Taunton, which is close to where Somerset's cricket ground was. So I could sort of have that extra opportunity of the school and being close to the county ground for my training as well. And that's sort of when it, I could sort of see that path, I guess. And for me, it was always about playing for Somerset. England sort of seemed that was at some point come after. I always just, had such a close tie to Somerset growing up and watching cricket there and just wanting to play for Somerset. So it was always, that was sort of, I'd say, my main focus in the early years especially. And the sort of England stuff came a bit later when I first sort of got selected for England under 17s or under 19s, that kind of age where you sort of, okay. But still I could understand the journey was first into county professional cricket before you'd get a chance to try and push on and get picked for England. Yeah,
but it didn't seem like it was like a far away thing.
No, I don't think, no, it felt attainable, yeah. Maybe you're quite naive at that age as well to sort of, you don't realise maybe how hard it is to achieve, but I don't know, everything sort of seemed in place. It felt like there was a plan as to how it could happen, and I was in the right places at the right time, had amazing support. So, yeah, it felt like, and I was going to go all out for it really, so... yeah, it didn't feel like it was impossible, no.
And 2011 to 14 were milestones in terms of you made your debut across formats, 2 against India, actually. What was that feeling like? Because you've moved from domestic to international cricket. Did you feel the weight of responsibility of now representing your country?
Yeah, maybe quite surreal, to be honest. I think especially the T20 debut. I think I was 21, and sort of came off the back of a good season for Somerset. And suddenly when you walk into the dressing room with guys like Kevin Peterson and Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, Graham Swan, sort of guys who not met before, and you watch them on TV and you build up this obviously huge persona, and then suddenly you're just a kid who's meant to be in the same team or on a par with them, and that in a way sort of feels quite uncomfortable, doesn't it? It's sort of, how have I ended up in the same room as these guys? And it's quite an amazing experience to play against India in my first match as well. Sort of, the travelling support India get wherever they go. The game was in Manchester, and I remember driving to the ground. Craig Keyswetter, who was the wicketkeeper at the time, drove me in, and sort of seeing the hordes of Indian fans there waiting for the team bus to arrive or whatever, and sort of quite eye-opening, absolutely. So very surreal experience. And then, but by the time sort of my test debut came around in 2014, I'd played a bit of 2020 international cricket, I'd played ODI cricket, so I kind of understood how international cricket worked with the media and the extra scrutiny and those kind of things. So that felt like even though obviously the hardest format, felt an easier transition because I'd sort of been around for a few years by that point.
Yeah. Did it ever get overwhelming? Because in India, it's cricket and cricketers are like gods. Like there's an overwhelming amount of noise and just like a shebang around these players. And I'm sure that when you debuted, some of the Indian guys you would have also seen on television now playing against them. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned driving to the ground, seeing the fans. I'd been and watched India as a kid actually in 99 and sort of seen in that World Cup sort of the way the fans acted towards Tendulkar and these guys. So yeah, it's amazing to see it. It's like nothing else that we have in cricket. The sort of the way Indian players are adored and supported, and the level of fame is quite incredible. So the only thing you can sort of link it to for us is probably football in England.
Yeah.
That sort of similar interest level, but it is still I'd say above that, to be honest, for the Indian players. So it's quite fascinating watching how they deal with it and seem so accustomed with it, and that media scrutiny and the interest is obviously it's a huge privilege as well, but it's it's tiring. And I think that's one thing I've learned a lot from the IPL is just how well the best players deal with in a good way the chaos around them.
The pressure,
the pressure, and just watching Dhoni walk out to bat the other night. The crowd is so expectant on. For him, and the demeanour that he carries is quite incredible for that sort of
situation.
Yeah, those situations and the external pressures. So it's fascinating to watch it.
Yeah, I think he's the only player, no matter who's the opposition, you still want him to win. Doesn't matter where he is or what he's doing.
Yeah.
I was watching that game and I was like, please hit that six.
It seemed like it was written in the stars. Didn't it? It was going to do it.
But when you do kind of win against players like these, is it still a sense of like insane competitiveness even at the IPL stage, as opposed to just at the international level? How is the distinction between these two formats?
Yeah, I think that desire to compete is as strong as anything. I'm a very competitive person in sort of anything you do, so you always want to win, and against the best players and in the highest pressure environments, that's where you want to test yourself. I think that's always been my aim, is to try and become the best player I can be and try and compete against the best players in the world. And obviously you're trying to do everything for your team to win. So whether that be playing for England, playing for Rajasthan Royals, other teams I represent, and it's just a privilege to play against these guys, So and have the opportunity to test yourself.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges that you faced in the process of becoming the cricketer that is competitive, wants to win? What are some of the challenges that you faced?
I say sort of the big challenges are dealing with, like you say, the outside noise, the external pressures, but also the pressures you put on yourself. That quest for improvement and getting better and wanting to win and those kind of things that you add a lot onto your own shoulders as well. And as obviously from the outside, people maybe see a little bit of what goes on and there's those pressures, but it's probably more from learning about myself and how desperate I am to do well, but making sure you do it in a healthy way and sort of that quest for learning and improving. I would say I learned a lot. Maybe I was between the ages of sort of 23, 24 to 27, 28. I think that was a big part of the development of my career, and sort of learned that early on in that phase I was too desperate to get better and asked too many people, and sort of lost myself in that sense by trying to sort of learn too much too quickly and ask too many different people, and then actually forgot about my own skills. And then at the end of that sort of 3-4 year period, sort of felt like I kind of worked out, okay, it's more about me, and I've got to work out how to gain information and not just sort of trust it straight away. There's that filter process. You don't have to, just because an ex-player who was a brilliant player had an idea for you, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. You can try it and actually say, no, this doesn't work for me, I'm going to stick with something else, or etc. So that learning process, I think, is probably one of the biggest challenges I've had, and just working out that yourself is the main bit. You're your main entity, and you must look after that and try and just pick out little things that can help you along the way. But I think you have to go through that, to understand it. And that's one thing that I say to some of the younger players now, is like, you want to accelerate that learning process as quick as you can, but you still have to
Go
to
through
do it. You know,
yeah.
you have to run your own race,
Yeah.
and you'll work it out as you go along in your own career. And yeah, if you can get to that point, you know, for me, it was sort of 27, 28. If you could get to that by the time you're 23, 24, you know, that's great. You know, that's a 2 or 3 year win on that. So yeah, that would be, if that makes sense, what I'm talking
no,
about.
of course
But
it does.
that's the kind
It's experience of the entire process.
Yeah.
And it was through this time frame you actually very honestly spoke about Test cricket and how it was like you've given it a go, but you preferred the other formats. Did that come from this place of, you know, just kind of understanding what your own strengths are as opposed to what other people were telling you?
Yeah, I think naturally my own strengths have always been a better T20 and ODI player. You know, absolutely, I was desperate to become an all-format player and be a really successful Test cricketer. I played quite a lot of Test cricket in the end, but probably never quite sort of performed to a level consistently that I felt like I could have achieved. And that will always probably be a frustration, like you know. And for me, as I said, I'm competitive. I want to be one of the best players in the world, and for me, those guys are the ones who can perform in every single format, you know, and adjust their game and adapt and play in all conditions all around the world, and that's what I wanted to achieve. So, you know, I had little bits of time where I was able to do that, but not, you know, consistently enough. And absolutely, it's at times being honest with yourself. It's okay to say, no, I need to be better at something, or I'm not as good as I would have liked to have been, or and I think that was another good learning for me. You don't have to just say the things that you think people want to hear, and you can take ownership of your own things and say what you believe, and be happy to show some vulnerability sometimes, and that feels like a weight off your shoulders when you're not trying to protect yourself, and you're more comfortable in saying, yeah, this is what I'm thinking, or this is how I'm feeling, or this what's
I'm not perfect.
Yeah, it's okay. And it just seems to make everything else a lot easier when you can accept those things.
Yeah. And how, you know, this is a question that we often ask because there's so much noise generally. I mean, for players at your level, of course, it's a lot more. But just generally, how do you block out the noise? Because it's such a difficult thing to do, especially since everybody has an opinion and you can't do anything to change it except just be you. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, a few ways. More recently, that I've become a father. I have 2 young girls, so that's quite easy because they do that for you anyway. Because when you're being dad, you just have to have full attention. You can't really focus on much else. But before that, I think having acceptance is a big part of the job, and understanding, being able to do that, accepting that a broadcaster pays someone to give their opinion, that they're just doing their job, and it's not a personal attack on me if someone criticizes me or something like that. It's just they're just paid to give an opinion, or and then I try and catch myself as well by, I watch other sports. I watch football and go, oh, how did he miss that? That was so easy, and that's like.
It's like backseat
and then
driving.
I'm like, oh my god, that's exactly what people are doing when I drop a catch or I get out for a low score. They go, oh, he's like, what a,
that ball.
He's let me down, or it's, how did he get out to that ball? It's like, well, I do exactly the same things without realizing when I watch other sports as well. So just acceptance. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't read as much as I used to in terms of like people's comments and stuff on social media, and I think that's quite a dangerous thing to get into a habit of. It doesn't give me any energy to look at those things, so I don't need to. I'm not sort of
consumed.
Yeah, not consumed by it, not bothered by it. And even if I do see stuff now, I'd say at this point it doesn't bother me. Whereas maybe if I was a young player now coming through, I think it's actually a lot harder with the prevalence of social media and the way that the world operates now. I was probably just at the right time as a sort of 18, 19-year-old. Maybe it was only just really starting. And it's a huge part of becoming a really good player now, I think, the way you can deal with social media and sort of that kind of stuff. If you can handle the extra noise and still do your job to the best of your ability, I think that's going to serve you really well as you go throughout your career.
Yeah. And in life as well, like just people, because it's just like such a bogging down thing, like opinions on social media.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you just became a father to your second daughter. Tell us a little bit about that. You married your childhood sweetheart. We've actually been researching, and there was not a lot there. So how is it happening parallelly? Is it difficult to manage, like having a personal life when you're traveling this extensively? You're playing at so many different formats.
Yeah, it is tough. You need an incredibly understanding and unselfish wife who's amazing. She sacrifices so much for me to be able to do the career I do. No, we're quite lucky to, her work allows her to travel as well. So we have a better balance.
Yeah.
Striving for some form of balance is something that I kind of kid myself that I try and get, which I know cricket is so selfish and you're away for so much, but I make sure there's times in my calendar where I'm not playing cricket for a month or something. I don't want to just play constantly all year round. I want to try and have some semblance of balance and be present at home when I can be, and sort of make sure I'm not just sort of rolling on from tournament to tournament, which you can obviously do in this day and age. You could play 12 months of the year if you wanted. And it's also good for my cricket, I think. It makes me fresh and hungry every time I'm available for something. I've got energy to try and perform at my best. But yeah, so I'm incredibly grateful to have such amazing support from Louise and the two children. And yeah, we just try and sort of, again, that sort of accept it for what it is. Cricket's not going to last forever. It might be, who knows how many years left I'll have of playing, and once that's over, I'll be sort of back to sort of a more normal life. So yeah, we're just trying to enjoy it as much as we can, and we're really well looked after as a family with Rajasthan when the family are out here, which is we're incredibly grateful for as well. So yeah, just really enjoying it, enjoying being a dad as well. They make me laugh a lot, so that's good.
Yeah. You actually took a few games off, or one game off, when you at the birth of your second daughter. That's something Virat Kohli also did when his daughter was born, and like it's a very relevant topic in terms of like paternity leave, because then that allows for balance and allows for a neutral gender balance if that exists. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a very individual thing. For each sort of person to understand. Like we just talked about social media, so not worrying about being judged or doing the judging yourself. From my experience, when Maggie was born, it was the sort of when the IPL was starting again in the UAE, sort of restarting, and there was a T20 World Cup straight after it, and for me it just didn't work. I wanted to be at home for the birth and be there for the first sort of few weeks especially, and there was an Ashes tour coming up after that as well. So if I had been to the IPL, I would have been away until from sort of September to January. So it's quite an easy decision to make, and cricket, as much as it can, comes second, to sort of family, and as you said, you strive for that balance and sort of your priorities. And if you say that you do that, you've got to try and live that through as well, isn't it? You can't just say, "Oh, cricket's not the be all and end all," but make opposite decisions to show that. So, yeah, and they, it's sort of
had two,
no-brainer. Really, I've had two girls, and you want to be at the birth. There's plenty more cricket matches.
Yeah. And I want to go into asking you, do you have any memories or any anecdotes with some of the Indian players? Any fun things that have happened? Because you've played with all of them. You've played against most of them. So.
Yeah. I don't know really. It's just same. Just enjoying getting to know them. There's sort of not one moments that sort of stand out really. Last year. First time I played with Yuzi Chahal, and sort of has a bit of a cult following, doesn't it? And
a bit of banter.
So that's been good fun. I've loved playing with Sanju for a long time now. So he's obviously been at the Royals for ages, but just getting to know him and play with him, and it's a privilege actually. One of the great things about the sort of franchise world and the IPL is the mixing of cultures and sort of spending time with people that you would never get the opportunity to otherwise. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and you know, in lots of the other teams there'll be guys you've played with or against, and suddenly you put in the same team as well. And yeah, I can't think of, sorry, I'm not giving you much or any sort of crazy anecdotes or really funny stories, but it's just really enjoyable to get the chance to play with people that you'd never get that opportunity to before.
Yeah. And England has won 2 major tournaments, the 2019 World Cup, 2022, and there's a World Cup coming up this year. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, excited.
It's in India again.
Absolutely, yeah. So really excited for it. You know, a World Cup is obviously an amazing occasion. You know, obviously getting a chance to win it 4 years ago, so understanding what that feels like, and it just gives you that drive to try and do it again. You know, you want to experience that again. India's obviously a brilliant place to play cricket, so it's going to be a huge World Cup. And yeah, it's sort of just sitting there in the background at the minute, waiting for everyone, isn't it? You know, obviously once the IPL finishes, and I'm sure the attention will start to switch towards that. But yeah, we have a strong talent pool in England. Our white ball cricket's gone from sort of strength to strength from sort of 2015 onwards, really. So yeah, we've got a really good team, a balanced side, and you know, we look forward to the tournament.
Okay, we're going to go into the next segment. It's things about you that we couldn't find on Google. And there was a lot, like you lead an insanely private life, but we'll add a few of those. We'll try to get it. Your favorite Indian dish?
Favorite Indian dish? I'd say I actually really like chaat. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Mumbai chaat.
Yeah, that's what I've been enjoying recently.
Your favorite captain of all times?
Favorite
captain?
Captain? Owen Morgan.
A young player that you find promising?
Harry Brook.
A retired batsman you'd love to bat with?
Viv Richards.
Oh yeah. Your biggest fear?
Snakes.
Oh, really? Your favorite commentator?
Ian Smith.
A myth about you that you'd like to bust?
Yeah, I think this, well, it's not a myth, but that like softly spoken thing, like soft, yeah. Or maybe I just need to change, not be as soft.
Your happiest cricket memory?
The 2019 World Cup.
Okay, this or that, wicket keeping or batting?
Batting.
English tea or Indian chai?
English tea.
Okay, amazing. We have like a few photos that we want to show you. It's like from back in the day. If you just tell us what was going on.
Okay. Yeah, this is...
it's like old photos.
Yeah, old photos. That's me and Ian Botham. So that's actually the 99 World Cup I was speaking about in England.
Yeah.
He was commentating on that. I think that's at Bristol, watching the West Indies against Pakistan. And actually I think it's like the first time I saw Shoaib Akhtar, and like, you heard about this guy who bowled so fast. And
really fast.
Yeah, and the huge long, I remember, I think I was 9 or 10, 9 at the time. I think this, like the length of his run up, just unbelievable. And that, yeah, so that was that day, I think. Playing against India at Lord's, there's a bit of, there's always good needle in the games, and I think Ollie Robinson had actually just come out to bat as well, and Virat was giving him a few words, and there's actually a bit of a confusion about something that was said, so we were just discussing that.
Friendly discussion. Yeah. Amazing. Last question. You know, if cricket was a metaphor for life, what advice would you give people? What have you learned? What has your journey taught you?
To keep going, really. I think, yeah, keep going, be patient, you know, work hard, and yeah, try and enjoy the people you get to share it with.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been lovely, and good luck for the IPL.
Thank you very much.
Not for the World Cup. I can't do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Thank you all for being the best community and I'll see you soon. मैंने अभी आपके टीममेट से पूछा था जॉस बटलर से कि कौन जीतेगा वर्ल्ड कप, तो उन्होंने इंग्लैंड कहा था। आप क्या कहोगे?
डेफिनेटली इंडिया ही कहेंगे, इंग्लैंड थोड़ी नहीं कहेंगे। ठीक है, फाइनल में खेल लेना जोश भाई, आउट हो जाएंगे जल्दी।